Ah, traveler, it's always good to see you. I have a tale, if you have time to listen.
He died, and the graveyard let him walk away anyway. Chapter 7. That wasn't me, he whispered. Not meaning that he didn't remember, meaning it didn't feel like him. Not the Rodney who panicked and flailed and made memes to cope. Not the Rodney who second-guessed everything. This had been different. Precise. Instinctive. Predatory. The memory of how steady his breathing had been made goosebumps crawl over his skin. He wasn't missing time. He was missing an explanation. The lantern flame flickered softly beside him, its green glow throwing long shadows across his face. His reflection in the metal rim looked back at him, and for a moment, just a moment, his own eyes felt like they were studying him. Rodney tore his gaze away. Nope. Nope. We're not doing that. Don't be weird, he muttered, forcing a shaky breath through his teeth. I'm alive. I fought. I won. That's all. He hoped saying it out loud would make it true. It didn't. The graveyard hummed with quiet expectancy as he turned toward the distant white-gold glow of the temple. He could feel the weight of the souls he'd absorbed still settling inside him, warm and cold at the same time. Too heavy for what they were. Too familiar. He looked down at the undead one had been holding a short sword, rusty and damaged. He dropped the club and picked the sword up and started walking. He didn't look back at the lantern. But he felt, not knew, felt, that the next time he woke beneath it, it might not be this calm. The sword felt wrong in his hand. Not because it was damaged, though it was, chipped along the edge like it had been sharpened with a brick, but because it felt real, heavy, cold, carved from a world that did not care whether he lived long enough to swing it. Rodney gave it a few tentative arcs through the air. Clumsy, stiff, but familiar in some distant, nostalgic muscle memory kind of way. Old flashes bubbled up in his head. CA weekends sweating under borrowed armor, foam sword LARP fights behind the gym, late nights sparring with friends in duct-taped gauntlets because none of them wanted to admit they were lonely. He hadn't thought about any of that in years. Now, it was suddenly the only useful thing he had. All right, he murmured, voice shaky but determined. Sword and board it is, if I ever find a board. A laugh, small, embarrassed, almost painful, escaped him before he could stop it. Hearing it here felt wrong, like smiling at a funeral. His gaze drifted back to the corpse he'd pried the sword from. Its boots were still intact, dark leather, thick soles, caked in grave dirt. Gear, loot, survival. His stomach twisted, but he crouched down anyway. Well, guess we're doing this the messy way. He used the sword to hack at the half-rotten ligaments holding the boots to the zombie's ankles. Wet strings snapped, flesh peeled. The smell hit him like a slap. Rodney gagged once, twice, but the boots came free. He scraped them against the grass until they looked merely gross instead of violently cursed, then slipped them on. The moment his heel settled, something clicked. Like a sixth sense he didn't remember having woke up. He just knew they were better. Not great, not special, but better than bare feet on freezing grave soil. A tired smile tugged at him. I can loot what exists, not just what the world decides to give me. That felt important, like a loophole, like a class perk. Something Vera definitely hadn't intended. He tightened his grip on the short sword and looked down the graveyard path. The holy light in the distance streamed upward, pale and patient, cutting a thin wound through the fog above the trees. Waiting. Calling. "Okay," Rodney whispered. "I can do this. I just need answers." He stepped deeper into the graveyard. The deeper he went, the worse the silence became. Every crooked stone felt closer than it had before. Every shadow seemed to lean. The fog thickened unevenly, drifting in strange, deliberate currents, as though reacting to his presence. His footsteps were too loud. His heartbeat was louder. One zombie at a time, he reminded himself. Singles, never groups. Groups get you eaten. He weaved between toppled monuments and cracked stone angels sagging like they were exhausted from centuries of watching people die here. He rounded a cluster of headstones and froze. A zombie stood ahead, swaying gently, unaware of him. It looked freshly dead, boots intact, pants shredded, shirt slashed open at the ribs. But what drew Rodney's eye was the armor. A skullcap helmet, rusted, dented, but undeniably real. Should I even try something like this? His brain hesitated. His gut didn't. Hell yes, I should. He slipped behind taller stones, circling with careful steps. His new boots muffled his weight better than he expected. As he closed the distance, his pulse quickened, but not entirely from fear. There was something else there. A cold clarity, a focus, a predator's patience. Rodney shoved that thought down and emerged just a few feet behind the undead. The zombie swayed, slow and oblivious, head listing to one side. Rodney raised the sword, hesitated, then thrust forward with a sharp, desperate motion. The blade punched through soft, rotted tissue and jammed against the spine. The zombie lurched, arms flailing. It turned sharply, jaw snapping. Too close. Rodney yanked the blade sideways, tearing it free with a spray of blackened blood. The zombie stumbled. He stepped in and drove the point up under its jaw. A choked, gurgling sound rattled through its ruined throat as it collapsed to its knees. Then it fell still. Rodney stood over it, panting, sword trembling in his grip. Not wait for it to move, not hesitate, finish it. He brought the sword down across its skull. The body slumped fully. The soul, thin, pale, frayed, peeled upward and sank into his chest. Warm and cold, heavy and hollow all at once. Rodney's breath hitched. Everything felt too sharp, too vivid, like his nerves were waking up, or rewiring. He shook himself and crouched by the corpse. The helmet came free with a wet scrape. More rot peeled off with it. Gross, gross, holy shit, gross, he muttered, wiping the edges against moss before slipping it on. It was cold, then warm. Then it fit too comfortably, like it remembered a head and decided his would do. Rodney swallowed hard. "Okay," he whispered. "That's not unsettling at all." He straightened slowly and looked toward the holy light again. The fog shifted. Something deeper in the graveyard groaned. Not the soft, dragging moan of the zombies. Something larger, heavier, awake. Rodney tightened his grip on the sword. Looting wasn't just helping him survive. The graveyard was reacting, watching, scaling. And the closer he got to the temple, the more it felt like something ahead was waiting for him specifically. He took one steady breath, then stepped forward. "Next time." "Nope," he whispered. "Absolutely not. I'm too level 1 for this." His heart hammered against his ribs. Every instinct screamed, "Run." Every instinct screamed, "Don't move." Both impulses tangled in his chest until he felt frozen in place. The huge silhouette paused, turned slightly, listening. Rodney didn't dare breathe.
Wasn't that interesting? Now don't forget to subscribe for more.
And ring the bell for your server.